Hello, everybody. I'm Doerr, the Aloha Shirt Psychic, and welcome to Mondays with Linda and Mel. I'm doing this show a little bit later because Linda had some computer glitches. I think there was something wrong with her computer. It wouldn't let her log in. It's probably got a virus. So she'll be on my channel next week, but I just wanted to come on and do a brief show. And here I am. So, hi, Linda. Hope you got your computer fixed. A little bit later on tonight, I'll be on Sherry's channel, Voices from the Swamp, and Deanne's going to join us. So I'm excited about that. Behind me, you'll see this print. I just hung it over a picture. I got it in Kenya, and I really liked it. And so I thought it might be a nice little backdrop. Might be a little crooked, but oh well. I need to have it framed, but I thought I'll put it to good use. You're probably wondering what I've got under my shirt. Well, surprise. It's just my way of showing them my support. Welcome aboard. Before we get started, a little bit of infomercial. Our Chicago event at the end of September is sold out, but we are taking names for the waiting list. So if you're interested, you can call my office at 847-590-5411 or email me www.meldorr.com. That's www.meldorr.com, or call my office at 847-590-5411. And we'll take your name for the wait list. Also, I do have some openings on my cruise going on the Italian and French Riviera in May of next year. I've got a few openings going to Peru. The Peru trip is selling out really quickly. So is the Italian and French Riviera. So if you're interested, please call my office. And I've got the newest trip going to Iceland in October to see the Northern Lights. That one's going to be incredible. So if you're interested in any of those, please call my office again, 847-590-5411, or email me www.meldorr.com. On September the 6th, I've got my trip departing for the Rhine River. It's going to start in the Netherlands. It's coming all the way down through Germany, stopping in Strasbourg, France, and ending in Switzerland. That trip has been sold out for a long time, but I'm really excited. I think I have like 43 people in that tour. So I hope you come along with us. I can guarantee you one thing: you'll have the time of your life and have nothing but laughs. I'm like the mother hen. I'm always watching over everybody. Okay, I've got a lot of questions. They were originally for Linda and I, but I'll go ahead and try to answer some of them. So Marilyn Monroe says, hi, you all. Hi, Marilyn. Will Democrats maintain a majority in the House and Senate after the midterms of President Harris? I feel yes. I see Johnson gone as Speaker of the House, and I keep seeing Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House, and he'll make an excellent one. I think Johnson right now, I get the feeling psychically that he's like shuddering, he's shaking in his boots because he knows that he is on the verge of getting ousted. Now that brings up a question about the whole thing with the economy. The will they pass the budget? And if Johnson doesn't, it's another nail in his coffin, and it's another nail in the coffin for the Republicans. So if Trump is smart, and I've got something in my eye, you all, I apologize. If Trump is smart, well, question now. But we all know who's running the House. It's not Johnson, it's Trump. But if he's smart behind the scenes, he'll tell them to pass that budget bill. So we'll see. Anyway, it'll be interesting. Now, people had asked about the debate, and my guides had shown me that Trump was going to try to weasel his way out of it. And now, did you hear he's threatening to pull out of the Harris debate because he doesn't want muted microphones. And I think the way the muted microphones worked is when a candidate is asked a question, a direct question to the candidate, the other candidate's microphone is muted, so it's not to affect the audience or it's not to affect voters. Trump doesn't like that. He wants his microphone on. And the reason for that is because if he did do the debate, he would get hung up in some conspiracy theory rant BS that he always does. But we all know, it doesn't take a psychic to figure it out, that he's using that as just an excuse. And then he says, I don't want to do it with ABC because, you know, they're unfair, please. Bottom line is he's afraid to debate Kamala because he knows that she will chew him up and spit him out. I'm not intuiting him showing up for the debate. If he does, I'll be very surprised. I hope he does, because if he does, he's going to, as we say in the South where I come from, he's going to get his butt whooped. Anyway, so I just laughed hysterically when I said he's trying to not show up for the debate because of the microphone issue. I'm looking at out of the corner of my eye at the banners on the news right now. And so it's just breaking news that he is talking about skipping the presidential debate. You know, this is just how he sets it up. He'll talk about it. He'll come up with something that's just so outlandish. You know, and it's his way of baiting everybody. And it's his way of letting everybody know at some point he's going to come forward and just not do it. Okay. So anyway. Okay, Pegasus says, will we get an October surprise? What do you feel is coming this year as an October surprise? Oh, that's a good question, Pegasus. I like the name Pegasus. You know, I do see a surprise coming in October that Trump's going to try to pull something against Kamala, but it's not going to work. He'll fail miserably. But I see that there is another October surprise with the circuit court overturning Eileen Cannon's decision, and also the constitutionality of the appointment of Jack Smith. And let me tell you something. If that goes to the Supreme Court, and I know it will, psychically I will, all the justices will say that her overturning the case because questioning the constitutionality of the appointment of Jack Smith, they will vote against her, with the exception of one or two, one being Clarence Thomas. And we all know the reason he made a decision in that one case, which the other justices didn't agree, was because he's trying to cover his own rear end, because he knows the DOJ is investigating him and he knows that Jack Smith is going to be investigating him. That's why he's yelping about that. The appointment of Jack Smith violated, he said that it violated the Constitution's appointment clause, which it did not, absolutely did not. Jack Smith has filed the case in the appellate court, and Trump has until September the 26th to respond. So I see that document's case being reinstated, and I see a different judge. And Eileen Cannon, my psychic impressions are telling me that she's getting really, really nervous right now, because she's realizing, even though publicly she would say she made the right choice, that she's realizing that it was a huge mistake. she's hoping that Trump will win because he's promised her an appointment to the Supreme Court. I don't see that happening. If it does, I'll be very surprised. But she's thinking that she's got Clarence Thomas behind her. She does, and that he can sway other justices. But guess what? Not going to happen. He might sway a few, but if that case goes to the Supreme Court, and I feel it will, the Supreme Court will not uphold Cannon's decision. I don't see it. So I think I don't know if it'll happen in October, but I do see some surprise coming out, a huge surprise about Trump being indicted and about Trump's sentencing. And it's not going to be good for Donald Trump. Whatever it is, it's huge. But, you know, it'll still look like that Donald Trump wins a few battles. But as I keep saying, as my guides keep saying, he will not win the war. He just won't. So that's how I see it. All right. Lucy DeLisi, I'm having a hard time pronouncing the names. I apologize. Will Gus Walls be okay with all the changes coming for him? I have such a soft spot for him. This is something so close to my heart since I had a brother with special needs that I miss so much. I am in tears even posting this. Thank you, Mel and Linda. Okay, Linda's not here, but thank you, Linda. Gus's father is spectacular. Tim Walz, in my opinion, is spectacular. And I am sure that he's an excellent parent. And I'm sure he'll do everything in his power to help shield his son. And without knowing it, Gus is going to bring a lot of change about in this country for special ed, for people who have special needs, and legislation being passed to help them. People like Ann Coulter, who said he was weird. How dare her? As I said in my fiery video, that what she said is not conservatism. That is just ignorant stupidity. And so my feeling is that, you know, Tim Walz and his wife will help Gus to adjust and will actually help him stand up to bullies like Ann Coulter or Donald Trump. So my feeling is he'll be okay. I'm all about helping people with special needs and learning disabilities. I have a few myself. I have something called dyscalculia, and I have ADD and ADHD. So I'm all about helping people. All right. Napoleon said Sterling mentioned that house prices will be going down. I don't like to read on what other psychics said. I mean, Sterling is a phenomenal psychic, but I just don't like to read on what other psychics say. You know, they get their information, I get mine. But I do see prices coming down in California a bit. I do see gasoline coming down, and I see car insurance, and I see inflation stabilized. I see grocery prices coming down, and I see the supposed supply chain shortage, which I'm beginning to question. I'm sure it was happening during COVID because it was COVID, but you know, those prices raised and they were never brought down. So I'm saying that these food companies are going to be forced, these food manufacturing companies will be forced to bring down food prices. All right. Napoleon also says the president of El Salvador is rebuilding the country economy similar to FDR's New Deal. European immigrants are starting to arrive in El Salvador. Will President Bukele allow these people to work? What's the future? Well, I think he's going to focus more on the people of El Salvador. But yes, I do see him finding jobs for them and allowing them to work. He won't put up with any shenanigans. And what I see coming, Napoleon, would be a lot of other countries in Central and South America following what El Salvador is doing. And I see like a Central American or Latin American, I should say Latin American Union being formed, similar to the European Union. And I feel like they would have a common currency. I think they probably do it on the peso, but it would be a common currency. And at first I see 2 or 3 countries joining together, then 5, and then a whole group thereof. And so I do see that Latin American Union, each country would still have, their own presidents and their own laws, but then binding agreements and things that countries in the Latin American Union would agree to. So, the passport would have your country of origin, but it would be just a passport like people in Europe, in countries that are part of the European Union. It'll have their country of origin, but it'll also, the passport says EU, European Union. So I see something like that, very similar to that in Latin America. Okay. Velderay says, why was an entire segment of the US population, the Chinese Americans, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese American, not represented at the DNC convention? That's a very good question. I don't know. I don't think that it was a meaningful slight. I'm picking up it was an oversight. But what I do see coming up is that Chinese American, Japanese Americans, Korean Americans, Vietnamese Americans, Asian Americans, I see Kamala and Tim Walz including them in future speeches and including them in talking about rights for Asian Americans as well. So I don't think they meant to exclude them. It was an oversight. It's an oversight I disagree with, but at some point they will talk about our Asian American friends and also our Pacific Island friends, like our Hawaiian friends, people on Guam as well. So, and our Native American friends. And so I see equal representation of Asian Americans in the future. Okay, Joanne Pumphrey says, is it true before Biden leaves office? Is it true that before Biden leaves office, the IRS will be sending a check to the American people? I don't know, Joanne, if it's coming from the IRS, but I do see a stimulus coming from the Biden administration before Biden leaves office and before the election to help out Americans. So I see a stimulus check coming, yes. I just don't know who will issue it. I don't know if it's the IRS. I don't know what department, but I see it happening. So you all have to excuse me. I'm going to take a drink of my ginger ale. My throat is bothering me a little bit today. Okay. Hi, Mel and Linda. Hope you are well. I'm a Marylander and would like for you guys to read on the Senate race. Larry Hogan, Republican, 2-time governor, who won due to Democratic votes. The Democrats put him in office. Wow. Is running against Angela Alsobrooks. Is running against Angela Alsobrooks, a Democrat. Information that will be important, she says. Hogan got a lot of Dem votes because there were weak candidates. During COVID, the community page on Facebook was all about Hogan being a rhino, Republican in name only. I live in a deep red county. During his 8 years as governor, he was very anti-Trump. He did write-ins because he wouldn't vote Democrat. Okay. On the very last day, he announced he was running for Senate. He won the Republican primary. At that point, Trump endorsed him. This makes no sense to me since Hogan was very vocal about being a never Trumper. Now he's saying he will help codify Roe, yet when a bill was passed to allow training for PAs, physicians' assistants, in abortion care in an effort to increase care for out-of-state women, Hogan, a pro-life person, vetoed it. The veto was overturned by our state reps. I don't trust him voting on it. She says, sorry, this is so long. I just wanted you to understand that Hogan isn't who he says he is. Again, thank you. I see a Democrat winning. I really do. I could be wrong. And if I am, I'll say I'm wrong. But in order for the Dem to win, it's going to take a lot of campaigning. I see the Dems in control of Maryland. I really do. So my feeling is the Democrat is going to win. And I think exactly what you just said, Janet, a lot of what you said is going to come out about Hogan by the Dems. And they're going to say, even though he was a rhino, he's still anti-women's rights. He's this, he's that. So I see a Democrat taking it. All right. Auntie Vaughn says, hello, Auntie Mel and lovely Linda. Question, will Putin try and pull a Hail Mary maneuver, aggression or attacks before being removed from position? You know something, Auntie Vaughn, it's amazing you asked this question because I think you must have posted this yesterday. And just today, I heard on the news that Russia launched several drone attacks and missile strikes against sites in Ukraine and all across Ukraine. And they were pretty devastating. So it's a really timely question. And I think this was probably, I don't know if it's a Hail Mary, but I think it was, something that even right up until the time that he is removed, he's still going to be doing stuff like this. But I see Ukraine getting even more weapons, and I see them attacking Russia with drones, and I see them taking over a lot more of their cities. Putin did it in retaliation because Ukraine had advanced in one of the cities that Russia had taken over. That city really belonged to Ukraine. So I do see him making a lot more aggression against Ukraine, but the Ukrainians will not stop fighting. They will not give up, and ultimately they will win. And Putin will be overturned. My intuition tells me the Russian people are really tired of this war in Ukraine. Ukrainians didn't start it, Putin did, and that many of them no longer trust Putin. Nobody does. Well, some do, but I'm sure that many don't, and they're tired of their children getting killed. So this is the beginning of the end for Putin. I can tell you that right now. All right. I can't pronounce the name. Sukilal. Hello, Mel and Linda. Do you see the PRO Act union being passed when Kamala's in office? I don't know what the PRO Act union is. If somebody out there will put in the comments what it is, I'll be happy to comment on it. I just don't know what it is right now. Or maybe I'm misreading the question. All right. Unstoppable says, do you see Trump trying to make the change from J.D. Vance to RFK? And I find it hard to believe Trump is going to debate VP Harris because he is scared of her, and he probably is changing his diapers every hour on the hour. I always felt he would pull out of the debate because he was afraid to debate her, and he's just using that open mic as an excuse. It's funny that you asked this because you asked this yesterday, and it just came out today what Trump said about the whole open mic nonsense. Um, I don't know if he'll change his vice presidential running mate. If he did switch to RFK and drop JD Vance, it would be even more devastating for Trump's campaign. You know, RFK, he suspended his campaign in the swing states, but kept it up in others. And I see somebody's going to take Mr. RFK to court on that. No, I want to say RFK Jr. RFK Jr. Because his father was nothing like what RFK Jr. is. His father was a tremendous social reformer. His father was big on going against organized crime. Uh, and RFK Jr. is a disgrace to his family. And my feeling is his family's not going to really have anything much to do with him after this. But anyway, so what I see coming is a lawsuit being filed against RFK Jr. in the campaign, saying that if you're going to suspend your campaign, you can't do it to influence the outcome of the election and just suspend it in the swing states to throw votes to Donald Trump. If you're going to suspend it, you suspend the whole thing. You just can't selectively say which state you'd like to run in. I see that taken to court, and the courts are going to say, no, can't do that. They might take it to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court would say the same thing, like, no, you just can't selectively suspend a campaign in certain states to try to sway the election. Can't do that. You suspend it all in all states. Even with this Supreme Court, they would say that what he's doing is illegal. And so I don't really think he's going to siphon that many votes off from Kamala. I don't think that many people were going to vote for him anyway. It doesn't give him much of an advantage, really, or Trump. But the bottom line is we all have to get out and vote. I watched Alan Lichtman the other day. Alan Lichtman is the sociologist and the professor who's predicted successfully every presidential election, I think, from the 1980s. He predicted Gore would win, and Gore did win, but the Supreme Court overturned that. But he's saying he hasn't come out yet with all of his keys. Well, he's got 13 keys. He hasn't come out yet, but he's indicating that Kamala is going to win, and I agree with him. I hope she wins by a landslide. I feel she will. I could be wrong, but I feel she will. She will. Anyway, so RFK, I see taken to court. And I see it's going to come to light a lot of shenanigans that were going on with RFK and Trump. They've been planning this for a very long time. And RFK Jr. called himself a Democrat. He's a disgrace. He's a disgrace. And I think he's a little off. I think that worm devoured too much of his brain. Okay. Here's a question about somebody who disappeared. I will not go public about a person who's disappeared unless the family calls me and asks me to work on a case. And if the family calls me and asks me to work on a case, I will help them at no charge. But then if the police call me in on the case, then I won't have anything to do with the family any longer. I'll work strictly with the police at no charge. So Mary, if you know the family or something, you can certainly have them call me. Okay, Kathy Reagan's. Hi, Kathy. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm just stammering here. I'm trying to get the question. Let's see. My question is, do both more news networks adapting to the change of less viewers watching them? I think they are aware that less viewers are watching them, but one in particular, uh, who's a propaganda arm for Trump. And I see a lot more lawsuits coming against that network. And the people filing those lawsuits are going to win, and they're going to win big time. There's going to be huge monetary issues. And I see that network having a lot of financial issues as a result of it. And at some point, I see that network sold. And I see them coming more toward the middle at some point. Give it a couple years, you'll see what I'm talking about. Meanwhile, I think with the momentum that Kamala has going and all that, a lot more people are going to be watching some of the news networks, the so-called news networks that are reporting a lot on her and less on Trump. And she is stealing the spotlight from Trump, and that's what's really bothering him. He can't stand it. And she's going to continue to steal that spotlight. I can tell you that right now. All right. Sheila, I can't say it. Sheila something critical thinker. There was information released this last week about the meat industry doing a bunch of price fixing using algorithms. Will anything come to this considering how expensive food prices are? The answer is yes. I see legislation passed in the future that will stop this price gouging, that will stop this sort of thing from happening. That price fixing is illegal and will be strictly enforced. So I see a lot of legislation coming federally so that this will not and cannot continue to happen. So I see food prices coming down. Absolutely. Okay. The grocers made record profits. Even during COVID, they made record profits, which I think is horrible that they make money when people are sick and dying. I mean, I agree with profit, but not price gouging record profits when people are sick and dying. That's just not cool. All right. Let's see, Kathy Reagan's. When do you see Fani Willis trial commencing against 45 after the November election? I kind of thought it would take place before, but I think it's going to be contingent on Judge Chutkan and that federal case about what is personal and what's presidential. But Kathy, that's a very good question, because what I do see is that ruling by the Supreme Court is the most ridiculous ruling ever. We know that the Trump appointed justices and the ones that like Trump were the ones that voted in favor of it. And I see there was dark money involved in that going to the court. And that's all going to be uncovered as well. At least the three justices that were appointed, not by Trump, ruled accordingly. And what really roasted me about that case is one of the justices, I don't know if it was Kavanaugh or who, were like, well, they didn't say we don't care about the facts, but here's the facts over here, but we're worried about what implication this will have for future presidents. Hello? Supreme Court is supposed to hear arguments on a case based on the merits and the facts of that case, and they didn't do it. I see that decision by the Supreme Court being overturned. And my feeling is it's going to be overturned within the next year, because I see different justices on the court, and I see two justices being impeached. Donald Trump's toxic, corrupt fingers touched every element of our government, our federal government. We thought that the Supreme Court was above that, and they proved painfully well that they are not. Some of them are above reproach, but there are 3 of them that certainly aren't above reproach, and they will have to pay the piper. Clarence Thomas is one, Alito is one, and Kavanaugh is one. So, I think it's going to be after the election, but I do see the trial commencing. Yes. Oh, well, Mark, I thought there would be a trial before the election. It might be the Chutkin thing, just hearing arguments about what's presidential and what's not. But I tend to think, I hope in a way that that trial even goes past the election, because I see that Supreme Court ruling overturned. Remember that. And I see new justices on the court, and I see 2 or 3 stepping down or being removed through impeachment process. So, okay. Will Marcy Kaptur, Democrat from Ohio's Congressional District 9, keep her seat in the November election? I think Ohioans are tired of, many of them are tired of, the J.D. Vance BS and the Trump BS, and those who toe the Trump line, if you will. My feeling is if she really gets out there and campaigns, she can hold that seat. That's what I feel. So, and I've already said, I see the Democrats taking over the House and holding the Senate and getting a bigger majority in the Senate, and even and more than a razor thin majority in the House. So, Deb Marsh says, will Kamala replace Christopher Wray, the current FBI director? I don't think she's going to replace him right away. I think once she's elected, probably within the first year, the answer is yes, but it's not going to happen right away. Okay. Kathy says, I wanted to say how much I enjoyed the passion you share with all regarding the current state of things in regards to our democracy, and how it's important for each and every one of us to participate and to vote. Somebody said to me, I live in a place that's all red. What can I do? People they're red, they won't listen. You don't have to change the world, but what you can do is vote. That's the biggest thing you can do, is vote, and encourage other people to vote, no matter how you think or what you think their political affiliation is. Encourage people to vote. That is our constitutional right. And I won't let anybody like Trump keep me from voting. All right. Lucy Claire says, I'm in Ruby Red, Kentucky. That's where I'm from originally. And I can't shake a feeling that state-based MAGA militias will take up weapons to back 45's denial of his defeat by Kamala Harris. I could be wrong. What do you say? Well, Trump is going to try once again to incite a little bit of insurrection and to incite issues, but I don't think as many people or militias are going to take up weapons like you might think, because they don't want to run the risk of doing time in federal jail like a lot of those people, those insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol did. So, if Trump's not elected, he's not going to be around to pardon them. Those people that, beat up those police officers and did all that horrible stuff, they weren't patriots. They weren't heroes like Trump said. They were thugs. And I believe in people's right for a peaceful protest, but what they did on January 6th was so wrong. So I don't think there's going to be organized MAGA-based state militias like you're thinking. I do think there will be episodes of violence, but it'll be quelled. That's what I see. Okay. Katie says SeaTac Airport in Seattle had to cancel flights yesterday due to a possible cyber attack. Was this a practice run to disrupt flights at other airports and transportation in cities? I think it was a litmus test, but I do think because of some of these things happening, that's going to cause like these airports and government agencies to put firewalls in place and upgrade their computer systems to prevent these sorts of things from happening in the future. I do see a large cyber attack coming, yes, but it's not going to be as devastating as one thinks. Because they're already starting to put things in place to prevent the cyber attacks. All right. Two cats, too many. I love that. That is cool. Hi, Mel and Linda. I feel we are in for many climate-related events in the next few years. Yes, we are. You know, the thing that worries me the most is not whether our democracy will survive. Yes, that worries me, but our democracy will survive. But the thing that worries me the absolute most is climate change, and it's accelerating. And when Kamala wins, I do see her joining the rest of the world to figure out ways, scientific ways, to stop this acceleration of climate change. I mean, because our civilization depends on slowing it down. So yes, we are. And for a lot of climate related events, the hurricanes are going to get more intense. Tornadoes are going to get more intense, more frequent, more flooding, more just violent events of nature. I think, on the hurricane rating scale, it only went to 5, but now they've added a new category, a category 6, because of the intensity of these storms. So I do, though, two cats too many, see that there will be changes made that will help in this area. So to the answer to that question is yes. Okay. Aloha, dear Auntie Mel. Question: will the government ever pay back the billions of dollars they took from Social Security? That's a really good question, because if they did pay it back, Social Security would have a lot of money. Had they invested that money like they should have and made profits on it and it kept reinvesting it, us retired folks should be getting a lot more Social Security than what we're getting. So I do see government paying some of that back. The answer is yes, not all of it, but some of it. Okay, how does Japan look for earthquakes? I see some real shakers coming to Japan and in that part of the Pacific. Not like the tsunami that happened in Japan before from an earthquake, but I do see some good sized tsunamis hitting this year. It's not going to be like the one in Thailand that took all those lives, but I see some pretty good tsunamis coming. Okay. Elflower 1 star says, how's the candidate different between Hillary and Kamala? Do you believe it's a different time that people are ready to vote for a woman? I think people were ready to vote for a woman when Hillary ran. In my opinion, Hillary won the election. It was the Russian interference that changed that election. Um, but Kamala has a lot more charisma. I mean, Hillary gave a brilliant speech, but Kamala is charismatic. And so is Tim Walz. My guides had told me that something big was going to happen in the Democratic Party to pull Democrats together. And I didn't think it was Joe Biden stepping down, but that's what it was. I'm sorry he stepped down, but Kamala is really charismatic. And so is Tim. And she doesn't stop. She doesn't back off. So it's not if people are ready to vote for a woman. I see Kamala winning. So I just think it's, the spirit of the time, the zeitgeist, if you will. People know what Trump's all about. And, will a bunch of bigoted white people, still want to vote for Trump? Yes. But many young people, many Latin voters, many Palestinian voters, LGBTQ, women, a lot of Republicans, Republicans for Kamala. So I think we're at a time where it doesn't matter about the gender of the president. It makes the determining factor is the kind of job they'll do. And she'll do a phenomenal job. All right. Jerry McLean says, if Trump has inherited his father's physical brain deterioration, how long does he have? I'm not a doctor, but my guys keep telling me that Donald Trump has to watch his head area, and I keep seeing dark clouds around Donald Trump's head area. So that means he really has to watch his health. Uh, he's obviously disjointed. I don't know if it's dementia because I'm not a physician, but I'm really with Donald. He has to watch for stroke and things like that. Okay. Um, Lorraine Orr says, I have several things I wish I could scream through a bullhorn to the massive extremists attempting to use the Bible as a weapon. Among them would be, we are to learn from the Bible, not repeat it. Hallelujah. And especially hold it right side up, Donald. He was holding it upside down. A lot of these people that quote one passage from the Bible, they've got it so wrong. They haven't even read it. My mom was Catholic and my dad was Protestant. And when we turned, I think it was 12, we had to go to confirmation. Every Friday, for 2 or 3 hours, we'd have to go to confirmation class for 2 years, and then we got confirmed. That was United Church of Christ Evangelical Reformed. It's a pretty liberal Protestant church. But we started with a book of Genesis, and we ended with oh gosh, I forgot my books of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges. With Genesis, and we ended with the last book of the New Testament, Revelations. And so when people quote the Bible, I'm like, wait a minute, or they misquote it. It's like there's nothing in there about that. So, and what gets me is all these people who quote the Old Testament, but yet if they believe in Jesus like they say they do, when Jesus came, the Old Testament went bye-bye, and people started living by the New Testament, supposedly. So a lot of times they don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, I'm not a biblical scholar by any stroke of fate, but we had to read it beginning to end, from Genesis to Revelation. All right. Lorraine also says, I believe in stacking the deck. Read the Bible, use your discernment. Read the commandments, use your discernment. Read the laws, use your discernment. Always follow your heart, common sense, and be a good, honest, moral person who cares more for the many than the few. Hallelujah. I'm going to read that again. Read the Bible, use your discernment. Read the commandments, use your discernment. Read the laws, use your discernment. Always follow your heart, common sense, and be a good, honest, moral person who cares more for the many than the few. That's certainly not Donald Trump, because he doesn't care about his constituents. He cares about himself. Okay. And she says something else here, which is I also like. She says, to all the greedy narcissistic extremists claiming to support the Bible's words, have you read the part about the meek will inherit the earth? Well, that's us, and we will do much better by earth and each other, present and future. All right. Okay. Somebody asked about housing prices in California. We've answered that. I do see them dropping. Dakota Kelt says, will the British government eventually end the unethical practice of culling badgers? That's a good one. Well, I think people are going to have to bring it up, and people are going to have to say it needs to stop. And if people do that, the answer to your question is yes. It's going to take a few years, but it will happen. Okay. Will any deep red states turn purple this election? I see a couple of them going purple. At some point, I see Florida going purple. Kentucky will go purple. I see a couple more going purple. Okay. These folks who want girls and women to have babies, will they supply pre and postnatal care for the health of the family, education, healthy food, safe place to live? So those people who say that they're pro-life, okay, once that baby is born, they do not want to do pre and postnatal care. They don't care about the education, and they don't care about if the kid has food to eat or a safe place to live. So they say that they're pro-life. No, they're pro-birth. They just want to dictate to a woman what she can do with her body. So to me, pro-life would be, to me, pro-life is once a child is born, taking care of that child, making sure that it's got, you know, healthcare insurance, making sure that it's a healthy family, making sure the child is educated, making sure the child has healthy food and a safe place to live. That's just, those are basic human rights. Okay. Jitterbug Tutu, love that name. Why hasn't Taylor Swift filed a lawsuit or even a cease and desist letter to the thug for using AI to generate a false claim of endorsing him? If she leaves it alone, then it gives the impression that she's okay with it. What's the holdup? I think her lawyers have already contacted his lawyers. His lawyers said he had nothing to do with it, but I think her lawyers are looking for proof to say he did. And at some point, there will be lawsuits filed. And at some point, she's going to win those lawsuits. She's not afraid of Trump, I can tell you that. Will Mark Robinson, who was running for North Carolina governor, win? He's running against Josh Stein, who is now attorney general. I don't know who's the Democrat there and who's not. Let me do some research on that and find out who's who, and I'll get back to you on it. Okay. Hi, Mel and Linda. Ronnie Jackson is up for re-election in Texas. Do you see him winning? He shouldn't even be in Congress. He's so messed up. I see Texas having a lot of upsets in this coming election. I really do. I see a lot of Democrats winning seats there because of the BS with Abbott. Okay. Midwest, will Katie Johnson be able to resurrect her lawsuit against Trump and seek justice? I do see another lawsuit she'll bring about against Trump, and I do see her winning that lawsuit. This is a good one. Laura Knight says, is Harris the president that will legalize marijuana? I do see medicinal marijuana and for recreational purpose being legalized in the federal government. It's going to take a couple years, but I see it happening. Okay. Okay. Here's a question about John Benet Ramsey. Here again, I won't go public on cases like that unless I've been called in. Is Ted Cruz cheating to win? Well, I'm surprised he's not off in Cancun somewhere. I see Ted Cruz out of office at some point, a lot sooner than later, hopefully this election. And his replacement will be excellent. So I said Ted Cruz going bye-bye. And Ted Cruz is going to be in a lot of trouble as well. When 45 passes away, will there be a presidential funeral since he is charged with insurrection, stealing top secret documents through the numerous charges? That's a really, really, really good question. Just because he's guilty of insurrection doesn't mean he wouldn't have a presidential funeral. My feeling is the answer is yes, but it's not going to be the deal that most of them are. But at some point, once he's passed away, I see his presidency overturned, but it's posthumously, as after he's dead and gone. Okay. Let's see. Any justice for SCOTUS in the near future? The answer to that is resoundingly yes. As I said, I've seen justices being impeached, at least two of them. I see new justices coming on the court that are going to be impartial, truly impartial. So, all right. Hello, do you see, this is Cece, do you see the conservative fight in Canada ousting Justin Trudeau, or would they rethink and learn from what is happening in the USA? Well, if Canada's not, if Canadians don't speak up, the thing that happened here can very easily happen in Canada. And it's funny what the politicians here call conservative. In my opinion, that's not conservative. Like Ann Coulter making fun of someone with special needs, saying he's weird. That's not conservatism. That's just ignorance and stupidity. Uh, you know, Conservatism shouldn't be about restricting people's rights to their body, restricting people's rights to vote, vilifying people if they disagree with you, vilifying people that because they might speak Spanish, or vilifying people because of their religion, or vilifying people because of where they come from. That's not conservatism. That's racism. So I I I understand what the question is, but what you're saying is, will those ultra right-wing bigots in Canada be able to take over the government? And the answer is no, but Canadians must be proactive to prevent that from happening. Okay. Alexis Anderson says, I want to know about the Voting Rights Act that failed a few years ago. Will it ever get through Congress? And the answer to that is yes. When that failed, I said, you know what? I think it's the Lewis, or I forget the name of it. I said, you know what? It's just on hold right now. Ultimately, it will pass. Okay. Teacher Barbara says, hi from Steam Bath, Florida. Does Satan wants to destroy our parks and put golf courses, pickleball stuff? So many people are up in arms. I live near Honeymoon Island. That's one of his targets. Okay. She said she tried to add me as a friend on Facebook so she could share the article. Barbara, I really don't even go on Facebook. The only time I go on Facebook is very rare, when I might post one of my trips or something like that. So if people are asking to be my friend and I haven't responded, I apologize. I just don't do Facebook a lot. But if you would send that article, email it to me, www.meldoerr.com. I'll be happy to share it in one of my shows. Barbara is a teacher. I think they should be the highest paid on the planet. So, for a while, Satan might be able to succeed in putting a few golf courses and things up, but ultimately, no. I see those parks remaining parks, as well as they should. All right. Somebody says Gabbard just endorsed Trump take on her intentions. Well, her intentions is that if Trump wins, he's going to do a lot of special favors for her. All right. So that's all the questions I have. I think I've answered them all, I hope. As usual, it's my pleasure. And in probably an hour, and not probably in an hour and a half, I'll be on live with Sherry, and Deanna's going to join us tonight. So be sure and watch us. As soon as I'm done here, I'll upload this, and it might even be going concurrently with when we're live. So thank you so much for your support. If you like my videos, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. My goal, I'm at almost 25,000. My goal is to hit 30,000 subscribers by the end of this year. And only you all can help me do that. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, thumbs up. Thank you so much for your kind and loving support. I love all of you, and namaste and aloha. Stay well.